Welcome to USCFootball.com Live. I'm your host, publisher, Ryan Abraham, and we have over there, sitting next to me, Keely Eure and Shotgun Spratling.
Hello.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Should I turn the camera a little bit? Are we good? We got a little more. They got
both of us. We're good.
Yeah, they got some green screen behind them. We're moving things around a little bit.
Look at that.
Hopefully, it seems like it's like kind of going in and out the screen there. Thanks for joining us. We wanted to talk. We'll talk a little about USC, Texas, triple overtime. Shotgun did a pretty cool story on the participation chart, so we can talk about that a little bit. Keely's been talking to all the players. Good stuff. And then, of course, we'll talk about USC California. And we want to answer all of your questions. I think we got a few tweets, questions. If you want to tweet me, I'm at Inside Troy. Keely's at Keely is my name. And Shotgun is Shotgun SPR. How you guys doing today? Keely, you're gluten-free. I brought donuts, though, so I don't know, you know.
What a
I've already enjoyed a donut. It was quite delicious.
I asked them if they had gluten-free donuts.
I appreciate the effort.
They said
that means
no.
a lot.
I did think of you. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. I appreciate
We're painting at the house. Like, I have a painter there, so I brought him some donuts.
So everyone gets donuts. Except
Yeah. I've been doing I'm using like a miter saw this morning, like doing baseboard stuff, like doing crazy like guy stuff, you know. I don't know. It's weird. Like, you got to do that stuff sometime.
I could use that too. Thank you very much.
You want some? I could come over and help you guys out.
Sure.
Yeah. You know, I can. I'm not super hitty, but I can, you know, I do some stuff. Install some baseboards and taking it off shelves and things, all kinds of fun stuff.
Way to go. If you have questions, put them in the comments in the Facebook.
Yeah, we got some Twitter questions. We'll also be taking your Facebook questions. You can also send stuff through Twitter. Continue. We'll be monitoring that as well. So, you know,
every platform, we will answer your questions.
Yeah.
Try to, at least.
We'll do that. We posted it up on the site.
We'll make an effort. We don't promise any true answers.
True answers.
True answers.
Speak for yourself.
True or false answers. I'm going to retweet this out too. Say we're live right now. So yes, we want to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. You know, we can talk a little about the Texas game. I think we've talked about that quite a bit all week, but you know, of course, people want to talk about it because it's USC Texas.
True.
Hey, maybe Shotgun, maybe we can start with that. Like any interesting nuggets that came from your, you know, in-depth look at the game, watching the film again, and the participation chart. I know that one stat was really fun. Maybe you should share that one.
I mean, one of the most interesting stats to me was USC. You know, everyone kicks off in a game, and every time you score, you normally kick off. USC scored 5 times, and they kicked off twice. Once at the beginning of the second half, and then their first touchdown they kicked off. Because the reason why they did not kick off the other times is because they scored at the end of the half, scored at the end of regulation, and then in overtime, obviously, you're not kicking off there either. So 4 different scores that did not have kickoffs after them. So 5 scores and the obligatory halftime kickoff, and they only had to kick off twice. So I thought that was really interesting. And then Dan also came up, followed it up. He said, I wonder if there ever has been in the history of college football.
Yes.
And, you know, it's possible that this hasn't been, that there has been a team score at the end of the first half, the end of regulation, and the end of the game. I mean, it'd be kind of a hard stat to kind of track.
Yeah.
But, you know, that seems like one of those just strange anomalies that might have actually occurred for the first time in that game.
That was actually a podcast question. Someone, I forget who sent it in. Thank you to whoever, to Dan's show. So we're like, yeah, that's wild. I don't think that's, I mean.
I'm guessing it's happened at least once, but, you know, in the history of baseball, you keep seeing things like, oh, this is the first time it's ever happened. And you're just like, baseball's been going on for 130 years. How has this never happened before?
Well, for overtime, there's only been going on since like the mid-'90s or something. And it's, you know, to score at the end of regulation and the end of the game, you know, that can't happen that often. And then you have to add and then the score at the end of the game would have to tie it and then go into overtime. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's happened. I would bet that it has never happened before. But let's find it. You know, we need to see. I used to be friends with the ESPN Stats Inc. people. Like for some reason, they would like give me all kinds of information, even though I didn't work for ESPN. Then they kind of realized like, hey, he doesn't work for us. We're not going to like answer his emails anymore. But thanks for the guys that did it. But maybe if they're listening, they can find that out if anyone's done that. Or
this
we can
is
tweet them.
One of the questions where SIDs, when they're curious about answers, I know just from working with a lot of baseball SIDs during the spring, is that when they don't know for sure, it just becomes a mass email to all the SIDs in the entire nation.
Is that what they do?
Yes, and then if it becomes a chain, then everyone who's not involved in it is just so mad because why am I getting 30 emails?
The reply all. I don't know.
Yes, the reply all if it gets involved. So maybe that's one way we'll find out if Tim Tessalone, tries to check out and see if it comes up in the next notes or something.
You guys tried to entice him though at practice. Both Dan and Shotgun were trying to get Tim to
look into it, maybe
get the bait of your little fun facts. So
I just tweeted the ESPN Stats and Ink people, see if they still like me or something. But yeah, maybe
whatever works.
Maybe they'll answer us. How about you, Keely? Anything interesting?
I just thought the defense played so well. Watching the replay, and even in real time, I couldn't get over how many gifts the USC defense was giving the USC offense, and they still couldn't capitalize. That was crazy.
Oh.
How bad has the offense been after turnovers? When the defense has collected turnovers, the offense has been absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
The first two turnovers, the Jack Jones interception and the Christian Rector fumble recovery in the first half, USC got negative 11 yards
Yeah, it went
on the two
backwards.
drives.
Yeah.
And then later they get, I think it was the Marvell Tell interception. They did get a couple first downs, but then they just had this terrible sequence where they go from the 20, I think the 22
all
to
the way to the 45,
where they had to punt, and it was 4th and 36. And then I think on the turnover in overtime, they got no yards either.
Yeah.
So
They just kicked the field goal,
four
right?
turnovers. They got a 4th and 36, and they lost 11 yards. That's just terrible. You have to capitalize a little bit, and that's why that game was not a blowout. That game could have easily been a blowout.
Easily.
I mean, USC has the 2 4th downs. Say they convert on the one at the goal line, that's 7 more points. If you turn one of those 2 turnovers in the first half, that's 14 points. Now all of a sudden you're pulling away, and the only points that Texas has are the pick 6. And they've lost their confidence in their offense and everything else there, and you kind of run away with the game. Whereas you don't capitalize, and now it's like, oh, we got a chance still, and they're feeling bad, and they think that they are giving the game away because they give up the play right before halftime instead of them feeling like, wow, we're just getting beat on all fronts in this game. Instead, it was a close game, and it was great for us. Created a thriller. Ryan got to hang out with Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
Hey, I just hit the camera.
So
Sorry.
excited.
We're like a real tight group here. We had I have to show. I can show everybody. Maybe we should show people what's. Here, I'll move the camera. Here's what's going on. That's over there. Here's my little laptop.
Behind the scenes.
That's me. So you can see me on 2 cameras.
Wow, double.
And this is our little studio. So that's my TV up there.
You can't reveal how small we are, Ryan.
Yeah.
That's
but we actually have a studio. This is kind of cool. So that's where the camera goes.
See, I thought we were going to get the green screen. You're just going to put a bunch of fans behind it.
I could do that.
Make it seem like we're in a vast cavernous
We should
space.
do that. So there are lighting and stuff. Here's my little
cavernous
bookshelf.
I was going to wear green just so I blended in.
This is how I keep track of the picks on the Pac-12 podcast that I got crushed this last week, which was not cool. But all right, back here. So we're back. Just kind of give you how the sausage is made inside baseball, whatever the.
No one wants to know how the sausage is made. They just want to taste it deliciously.
Well, hopefully they like this delicious Facebook Live chat thing we got going. It's our 4th week in a row doing it. It's pretty good, And you guys drive I'm just from Redondo Beach. I can walk here if I want to. I don't, but I can. You got a long drive. Those girls, Shotgun and Keely. So appreciate you guys coming down.
We do what we can.
Yeah.
We had to take over last week since Ryan didn't want to be available. We had to just solo.
Yeah, what was I doing? I forget what I was.
One of your Ryan Abraham things.
Yeah, I did drive up to Pasadena. Dude,
Yeah.
I listened to all as many podcasts as I could. It was a 2-hour drive to Pasadena to do Harvey Hyde's radio show. It was pretty bad. I mean, the show's fine, but just to get up there, it's a real pain in the butt.
There we go.
Nice. So people writing in?
My computer wasn't working, but I'm seeing comments.
Oh, nice.
Do you want to start with Facebook or Twitter, or how do we want to play this out?
We got some tweets early, I think. Do you want to go there, or do you want to do Facebook?
Let's go tweets. Shotgun, you have it pulled up. Want to go first?
Sure. A lot of injury questions, obviously.
So
What's the status of Porter Gustin? What's the status of Daniel Morebebe? The one we know for sure is that Uchenna Nwosu is expected to play this week.
That's the only update we got.
Yesterday,
even though a lot of people are missing or not playing, that's the only one we got.
That was really it yesterday. We don't think Porter Gustin is going to play. I think it's going to be a couple weeks for him to heal up the toe. Yeah. And while he is healing up the toe, he can heal up the bicep. He told me after the game, I called him a little bit after the main scrum, And he's like, I could play on it. It was just the fact that it was combined with the toe. He's like, now that I'm healing up the toe, that I'm going to be healing up the toe, I'll heal up the bicep at the same time. And you could tell in the game that it wasn't a big issue for him because his last 3 plays were the 3 plays that USC had 3 consecutive sacks on, and he had the first 2.
Yeah.
And he had good pressure on the third one, too. So if it was really bothering him, it didn't show at all. And the same thing when you tune into Nwosu, I didn't know during the game that he was injured.
No.
However, when rewatching the game, I saw a couple of instances where you could tell that he was really favoring, the leg where he injured the knee. He had I believe it was MCL sprain they diagnosed it as. And there was a couple times where he just couldn't turn on that, and maybe it cost him a sack on one occasion. But the fact that he was still blowing by the offensive lineman on one leg, basically, was so impressive. I mean, the kid has been an absolute beast this season. He's been, the team MVP, in my opinion, so far. He's just kind of changing the game coming off that edge. So it's going to be really important to have him and possibly get someone to bookend him, getting some pressure on the other side this weekend against Cal, because they're going to want to throw it a lot and throw it quick.
Dan Weber was not happy that Porter Gustin played. He goes, that's inexcusable. Like, what? Then to be fair, I mean, he played well, but he was like bleeding through his, shoe. It was like, you just had surgery on your foot. It was amazing that he played well. And he, like you said, he ended his time in the game with a couple of sacks. But man,
he pulled a Kurt Schilling.
I'm not sure. Like if that was like for the Super Bowl and then that's like the 3rd game of the season, he might be out for a couple weeks now. We're not sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
You guys think Shotgun? You're cool with him playing?
I mean, he wanted to play.
Yes.
So if I'm the player and they give me clearance, I'm going to go out there. And the coaches, that's when it becomes the coach's decision. That is there a possibility of this being re-injured? Is this going to be a longer term injury? Is it better to sit him now and try to save him for that longer term? That's what you have to decide, and that comes a lot with the trust in the medical staff as well. And we've seen in the past 10 years at USC that maybe the medical staff isn't necessarily the ones to be trusted with some of the injuries that have happened and some of the things where Jarvis Jones isn't cleared at USC, he's able to go to Georgia and play. The Armand Armstead, and who was the cornerback who also had lawsuits against the medical staff and USC as a whole. So some of those things don't lend itself to confidence with the medical staff. But we've also seen guys like Juju Smith-Schuster come back and be able to play that week. So you have to see both sides of it and see that they've done really well with some of them. So it all depends on the coach's perspective and how much they trust in the staff. And apparently they trusted them enough to put them out there and didn't think it would be an issue. I mean, it's always going to be difficult when you have a foot injury because you can't stay off of it necessarily, and especially in the game. I mean, Chuma continued to play with the right wrist, and sometimes he was able to play with one hand. There were times when the play would go away from him, he would just use his left hand. You can't really do that with your feet.
Yeah.
I mean,
one-legged.
I mean,
rush attack?
Yeah, one-legged rush attack, just
hopping around.
Just hop it.
I think so. There's a lot of injuries, but overall, I still don't think it's terrible. I think Daniel Meto-Rebe, who hasn't been in there, that's been big. That's obviously a security blanket for Sam Darnold. He hasn't had, and if he's playing, maybe Darnold throws 2 or 3 less picks than he already has. I mean, I don't know, but I think that would be a big difference. But if Rasheem Green can't go, even though Christian Rector came in and played really well, I still think that would be a big blow. Uchenna, like you mentioned, the one I'm curious about with Porter, because my gut is he's not going to play for a couple weeks. You watched, you guys saw the thing again. When I was watching live, I was trying to watch Connor Murphy. I just didn't see a whole lot of push. It just didn't seem like he did all that much. Did you see anything different when you watched it back? Because that seems to be the biggest, weakness, I guess, if Porter ends up not playing.
Yeah, I didn't see much out of Connor in the game, and he even admitted to me after the game that he was excited, and sometimes he lost his keys. Instead of he said after the game, there was this thing I should have done, this thing I should have done, and he said my best friend is going to be the tape this week. So I expect him to a lot of times that you talk about the biggest jump that the teams make is from the first week to the second week because coaches finally learn what they have. I think it's the same thing with someone who gets in there for the first week starting. And he didn't stay in the game long to start with. Porter came in on the third play and stayed in the rest of the first half. But Connor Murphy was in a good portion of the second half.
Yeah.
Wole was in there some. The one reverse that Texas got 10 yards or 11 yards on. He got sucked in and didn't maintain his discipline and stay on his edge. and that kind of cost him. He had an opportunity. I think if he is a more experienced football player, then he gets a sack on that ball that goes between the quarterback's legs, because you naturally, as a pass rusher, you're going after a quarterback and you just want to go after him. But if you think in your head, as soon as this quarterback picks his ball up, he's automatically, because he's right-handed, he's going to turn right and try to look for something immediately to his right. So if you play off of his left shoulder as he's running back to get the ball, there's a much better chance that you're able to get that sack. And I think that's something that's just going to come with experience for Woolley, which is one of the reasons why I think he's a guy, and Connor Murphy as well, that needs to sub in and get that 5 to 10 plays like Johnny Nansen talked about last week, rather than, they had 7 starters basically play the entire game, or 7 starters did play the entire game on defense, and Cam Smith had 1 play off. Dislocate my finger, that's okay, we'll pop it back in. And
that was the Levi Jones one, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Levi
Jones had a good debut.
Yeah, good pressure, on his high school teammate,
yes.
Erland.
Sam Ellington.
I always wanted to add an R all last week for some reason.
Southern drawl.
Yeah, just add extra letters.
I just grabbed Levi Jones briefly because I talked to him before last Wednesday, about playing Texas and how much they recruited him and stuff. And I put some stuff in the war room, what he said, and he was real happy to be able to get in there and get some pressure on. But for that, like you're curious about the whole substitution thing. Maybe get your thoughts on this too, Keely. Like he came in for 1 play and made an impact. You're like, maybe he should be in some more plays. Like it doesn't seem like he's a liability. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think there's a lot of flack on Clancy because he wasn't substituting, in the sense that if guys get injured and need to come in, they're not going to be prepared.
Yeah.
But you did see that, like, Christian Rector, he came in, he was able to make an impact. I mean, he was getting reps at third down, but still, when he was full-time, he still made an impact. But Levi Jones, he came in. I mean, it's interesting. Clancy's just that NFL mind where he just wants to go with the starters. Yeah. I don't think there's a real problem with that if the starters are getting it done, and they are. As long as there's development happening, and you kind of see that with Christian Rector and what Levi Jones did. It's a small sample size, but seems like they're still developing, even though they're not starting. So
it might hurt a guy like Connor Murphy, like Shotgun was saying. He wants to see the tape on it. Like I didn't think he looked all that comfortable, and he's got these long arms, and it wasn't and Wusu's the one batting down passes, and you would think Connor Murphy would be able to do that too. So we'll see. I think we're going to see more of him the next week or two. So it's going to be on the road. But if like Shotgun said, you get that tape on him, maybe it'll help his development. It's not he's not thrown in. He's going to know. He's most likely going to know he's going to start the game.
And everything just starts to slow down. I mean, athletes always talk about once you're in a situation enough times, the game kind of slows down for you. You talk about the jump from high school to college or college to pro. It's always the speed of the game. So things start to slow down. Your mind starts to process things a lot quicker. And that's what you'll start seeing as people get experience. And what would help the development of the defense? The offense scoring when they have opportunities.
Yes.
And then if you're up 24 points in the fourth quarter, guess what? All those backups are getting that opportunity and getting that extra chance. And then Connor Murphy is getting extra game tape in that situation rather than necessarily, in a starter's role that he doesn't have an opportunity to get that previous experience. So. Yeah. It works on both sides, and people want to blame the defense all the time, but Clancy's going to play the best players, especially when the game is tight. It's much easier to sub in and say, hey, let's give Keely Ross a series at nickelback when you're up by 17 points in a game in the third quarter versus when it's a tie game or it's 14-10 and you can't pull away.
Yeah, all the talk. It's funny. All they talk about basically, like we just got a tweet like the Darnold effect as a fan. So this one's from. Let's see, Mark S. Closewell. I think that's right. Mark S.C. Boswell. My bad, sorry, it's kind of far away. The Darnold effect. As a fan, I've never felt this confident at the end of halves or games. I wanted to get your thoughts on that. I think it's certainly true. He's just a guy that's going to will you to win. But if it's close like this all the time, I mean, this team relies so much on Sam Darnold. You know how many snaps Matt Fink has got? None, right? Like he hasn't been in a game yet. Like not even garbage time snap. At least like Max Brown got those. USC needs to build, like you said, some leads and be able to play some of these guys. I mean, there's a huge drop off if Sam Darnold goes down. So you'd need some opportunities to get some of these other guys in the game.
There's basically a huge drop off if Sam Darnold goes down at any place in the country right now. I mean, Lamar Jackson and maybe Josh Rosen are two guys that then maybe the drop-off's not as bad. But besides that, you're going to have a tremendous drop-off. I mean, we talked about the processing of information. I mean, the jump pass itself, how quickly he processed everything in that play. And Dana, I believe, wrote about it yesterday or the day before. But, he knows that he has a blitzer coming off the left. He's going to have to get rid of the ball quick. He tries to step up. Nico Fala's kind of getting pushed back towards him. So he says, you know what? This defensive lineman is in my face. If I try to throw it flat-footed, he may knock it down. Okay, I'll jump and throw it. Then once he's in the air, he realizes Stephen Carr hasn't really turned his head around yet. I better loft it a little bit more just so that he has an opportunity. Yeah,
just midair.
Literally all that is going through his mind, just rapid fire, and that's the difference in Sam Darnold versus other quarterbacks.
With seconds left in the game, might I add.
Yeah, the pressure does not rattle him at all.
Most people would have been sacked there, let alone the really good quarterbacks would have maybe got away. He jumped in the air and made like a play that you gained 20 yards on. Like that was pretty redonkulous.
Once you get in those situations, your adrenaline just starts pumping that much more. And we all have been athletes. Ryan still tries to pretend to be one.
You still do stuff.
My shoulder's done, so I'm out for now. But when you get in those pressure situations, the adrenaline starts running that much more, and you can feel your body, kind of, changing in that moment, and it takes that much more concentration and preparation going into something to be able to calm your nerves and calm everything down. And then you add 90,000 fans screaming or a sellout of 82,000 if you're USC.
Right.
Yeah.
That was weird, by the way.
And it just changes the dynamic of the game. And for him to be able to be so calm is something that is truly impressive.
Well, also credit to the coaches. I know people don't like to do that, but Sam also said at the end of the game multiple times that it was because they practiced that. They literally practiced every scenario. And Sam was like, I knew if I had at least 20 seconds, we could get something done. I'm like, 20 seconds? Like, who are you? But yeah, he said because they practiced every scenario so much, you sink to the level you're trained and you don't rise to the occasion. So I think that's what we saw, and that's what Sam Darnold said.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
39 seconds. That's pretty crazy. But yeah, the Darnold effect, in full effect there. You got more questions or what's?
Yeah. Let's see. Do you think Rojo will play this weekend? Daryl asked that.
I'm gonna do crystal ball. Yes. What do you think, Shaka?
I don't know. I mean, he hasn't really done anything in practice. Last week I thought John Houston, he didn't do much in practice. I was like, he looks like he'll be okay, and he didn't play.
I didn't think so.
But Keely would disagree with me. So I don't know. What do you think on Rojo?
I didn't think Porter was going to play, and obviously he played.
Yeah, yeah. Injuries are weird to try and predict, but Rojo seemed like he could go if needed. The first Tuesday practice, he was dressed fully. He did the first scout team. He kind of did stuff. He talked with Helton for a little bit before running over to go stretch. Came back and stretched and talked to Dealin, the running backs coach, and Helton, and it looked like Helton just shut him down. He was like, I don't think they know what they're going to get out of Rojo.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to practice. So I think that's what the case was. He wasn't even dressed for Wednesday's practice. He kind of looked like, I don't know what to do with myself. Like, I'm not used to standing around and watching practice. I think with Rojo, you're at least going to see him for a half, maybe. I don't think that he's completely shut down.
And the thing is, you got three other backs. I mean, they have confidence even in Coliseum, where even though they're not playing much, as well as Vi and Stephen Carr, obviously. And last year, the breakout game for Ronald Jones was against Cal. So maybe it's someone else's turn to break out. Ronald Jones had 223 yards, I think, against Cal. And then also Coliseum had over 100 yards, so it's a big rushing day. You can see that again this weekend. There's not a lot of personnel differences in Cal. Are they coached better this year? Yes, because Sonny Dykes didn't care about defense, and Justin Wilcox does, and Tim DeRuyter's not a bad defense coordinator up there. So I think obviously they're going to play a little bit better than they did last year defensively, but still the same personnel. There's nobody there on that defense that's really going to scare you or anything. So I think there are going to be opportunities, especially to run the ball, and whoever's back there should be able to get some yards.
I was kind of guessing he does just because, like Keely said, he was actually, dressed for a while, did some stuff where Porter Gustin, wasn't even,
we haven't seen him.
Yeah, he was, gone. He was, in a cave and came out, his Superman hole cave or whatever and just said, me play. And he just went and played, It's like, okay.
And granted, part of that, I was talking about this, I believe, with Dan the other day, is that, part of it is that it's a foot injury, versus any of the other injuries and maybe some of the knee injuries you've seen guys go inside is because you want to work on those zero gravity machines. You want to work on the underwater treadmills because there's so much less pressure put on the foot or the lower body on those machines where you can still do the movement and stuff. And all that's going to happen inside. They can't bring those out to the practice field like they can the exercise bike where you saw Rasheem Green on for most of practice this week.
Yeah, but we saw it with Uchenna and Ajane. They went inside too. They're
So they would go in for part of or they come out for the beginning of practice, go in, and then come back out without their pads on or something like that. So we saw that a little bit. Speaking of what I was just talking about with the run game, Full of Nopes at Full of Nopes, which is a pretty good Twitter handle, I think, says, will the O-line dominance return this week?
Full of Nopes. I like it. Praxis. Sorry.
What's that?
I got distracted. What was the question?
This is what happens with Keely Eure.
Millennial.
Will the O-line dominance return? The O-line was kind of a disappointment in that Texas game. I mean, Texas's ability to use their speed and quickness off the ball and with slants and different things, I think really upset the offensive line and gave them issues. So I think that's something the teams to watch for going forward because I think teams will try to replicate that as well now that it's on tape.
They were also big boys on both sides of the ball. Their line, their offensive line made Porter Gustin look small. And that's saying something because he's not a small guy.
And their tackle was 6'8", I believe. So
mean,
and they definitely used different schemes. And I think some of the I talked to Nico Fall after the game, and he was like, they did stuff we never saw before. We'd studied all his tape. There's all kinds of new things. So certainly Texas put a lot in this game plan that they weren't putting on film, but there really wasn't the adjustments. And I think there was a couple every once in a while, but they would overload one side of the line, and USC wasn't sliding over. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that. I think it was schematically, too, that they weren't getting help. But there was physical beats, for sure, but there was a lot of, schematic errors, I guess you could say, where they just didn't look ready, and then they didn't really adjust when to what they were doing. And I think the play, we talk about this a lot, the play calling, too, never adjusted. If people are going to, on early downs, they were just stacking the box, and they were like, they're not going to let you run. And USC kept trying to run. And Dan Weber's, pulling his hair out because he's trying to ask Clay Helton about why did you run the ball 37 times and only throw it 51? And Clay Helton's like, hey, we adjusted. We threw it 51 times because we knew we couldn't run. It's like, well, you still ran it 37 times. So he was not – Dan was pretty fired up this week. He's normally not, that way. But I don't know what you guys think about that too.
I don't know why they didn't use more of the wide receiver screens. They were working so well. They always say, it's an extension of the run game. Well, when Texas is stocking the box and leaving 7 or 8 guys in there and sometimes walking that safety up to put a true 8 guys in the box, and they would motion out the running back. I believe when they motion the running back out in a certain formation, they average 12 and a half yards a play because every time they did it, Texas didn't really adjust. Texas didn't push anybody out a lot, so they would just get an automatic numbers advantage. It would be 3-on-2 on the outside. They throw the ball out there, and Sam's so quick with his ability to just fire it out that it takes that long for the safety to get over there or for the linebacker to make an adjustment and get out. You saw a little bit later in the game they started to make some adjustments. Texas did, and they would push out the outside linebacker a little bit more. So, but if you did that more early, I think that opens up that running game a little bit. Sometimes you have to throw to run, sometimes you have to run to throw.
Yeah.
If you can't run and then play action to throw deep, sometimes you have to throw short until you can open up some running lanes inside. And I don't think that they did that enough, especially with how well it worked.
Yeah.
And they did some different things with that screen game, too. You saw Tyler Petit catch a ball. You saw running backs catch the screen passes. You saw receivers. So, they showed different formations and lined different guys up and gave the ball to different guys so that it wasn't obvious. So they were doing some unique things in that regard, but I just thought they should do more of it.
I got a tweet if you want me to read that one, Keely, or
go for it.
I don't want to step on your reading toes. It's from Brandon. I think it's B Imperial 96. And Shotgun and I were talking about this. This one just came to me. Shotgun and I were talking about this earlier. And maybe get your thoughts first, Keely. What's up with Jamel Cook? We're getting heavy praise. Was getting heavy praise over the offseason. Why hasn't he seen the field? Thanks for your insight.
I honestly don't understand the clamor with the Jamel Cook. I understand because he was got some hype in spring and was a highly touted guy coming in. But, if you're clamoring for him to replace a 3-year starter in Iman, and Jamel's never played it down. I just don't understand that. But I mean, as far as Jamel and his drop off, I think it's just a playbook thing, maybe a little slump sometimes you see these guys kind of get lost. They're not really following along with the rest of the group in the sense of like getting the playbook down or being focused. And I think we're kind of seeing that drop off with Jamel a little bit, and that's why you haven't seen that progress or that continuation of what we saw in spring.
We should note when Jamel Cook was very good. He was playing nickelback the very beginning of the spring. I mean, spring's what, 5-6 weeks long now. They try to space it out as much as they can. It's over. They skip spring break, so maybe it's even longer than that. Maybe it's 2 months long. The first bit of spring, you don't see a lot of veterans. You saw poor Augustin has a wrist injury. You have guys that have those small surgeries and stuff in the off season. So those young guys get opportunities, and sometimes they're facing young guys. And they make some plays. We saw it with Velus Jones. Velus Jones made a ton of plays at the beginning of spring. End of spring, not so much. Yeah. Jamel Cook, not so much at the end of spring. So a lot of people are clamoring off of something that happened in February or in March versus what happened at the end of April when the spring game was, and what happened in August during fall camp. Jamel Cook has made some plays, but a guy like Keely Ross has made a lot more plays.
Yeah.
Keely Ross had 3 interceptions the last 2 days, 2 of them on scout team. So take it for what that is. But he also picked off Sam Darnold on Tuesday. That's a guy that if people want to be clamoring for someone, maybe that's who it is. And maybe this is the difference between, they don't see a Janae giving up, deep passes. However, they also don't see that Janae's not on one-on-one coverage with 6'6" guys on the outside. They're really good. Colin Johnson's going to be really good. And you look at the positioning. That's what you should be concerned about. Are they in position to make plays on it? The concern with Biggie was he was grabbing her and stuff, and, there was some grabs there. Did he get the calls, though? Did Colin Johnson get any calls? No. The 2 catches, I believe, that Colin Johnson had on Iman Marshall one was a diving catch, and one was short, and one of them Biggie slipped on. So it's not like, he just ran by Biggie and it was like, or there was 3 pass interference calls. None of those things happened.
Yeah. So
a lot of the things, I didn't really understand all the people that were upset with the cornerback play. I thought Jack Jones played fine. He didn't play great. I mean, he had an interception, first career interception, and nobody wants to give him credit for that, it seems like. It's like, oh, well, that should happen, but he can't get beat on any other play. That's not allowed.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Also, Clancy's defense makes it so that the corners are going to get burned sometimes. Like, it's not...
It depends on the game planning they're going with, and this week it was really to stop the run. I think Texas had, I have it in my notes somewhere, but I don't have it pulled up, was 78 yards or 65 yards or something. They came in averaging 252 yards rushing in their first 2 games. They didn't get anywhere close to that. They didn't run the ball at all. Texas fans, I was on a Texas podcast last week, they were talking about, I don't know why we don't put Chris Warren in. Chris Warren didn't do anything in that game. And most of the yards they got
That's
were...
a big 250-pound running back. And he
didn't do anything because they stacked the ball. Same thing that Texas did. Everybody's upset about how USC didn't run the ball. Well, Texas didn't run the ball either. And
they both averaged 1.9 yards per carry. Fun fact.
Yeah.
I wonder how much the Texas fans are upset with their cornerbacks because Deontay Burnett just had another 100 yards receiving.
Yeah. I don't like the criticism. I think people are being overly critical of Jack Jones and Iman Marshall. But I am a Jamel Cook fan. And I liked him better as either a safety or a nickel. The move to corner just seemed a little strange. But I know, Shotgun, you talked to Clancy to probably get some thoughts about why he's not going to see the field. But to me, there's just a feeling of he was doing well on the field. Something changed. Something happened. And I don't think it's a play thing. It could be, like Keely mentioned, like a playbook thing. I don't know. I mean, I'm not, did he get in trouble or did something happen that the coaches are like, don't feel as confident in him? He's at corner. Like maybe they need some help at corner where he can play corner, but it doesn't look like he's going to play corner. I don't know. Something kind of weird is going on there. I agree with what Shotgun was saying, but I felt that, he has skills. I felt, the injury, he kind of came back from it and was playing well. Something's different going on there. I'm not exactly sure what.
I really liked him in the spring as a nickelback position. I think just his length and his ability to come off the edge and blitz, I thought would really fit well there. Part of the problem, or part of maybe the reason why they moved him to cornerback, is they saw if there's more of a depth issue there, and there's more of potential for him to play on cornerback. And maybe it's taken him a little bit of time to make that adjustment to cornerback because it's a little bit different than playing inside. He's used to playing in the box. He did play some corner in high school, I'm sure, but it's a little bit different when you're going up against those 6'6" guys that are really athletic, or the speedy guys, and they put them outside on the edge. Whereas in the nickelback, maybe he could blitz more and do some things. But Jenny Harris was one of the best defenders throughout the entire fall camp. So are you going to just put him there and behind him? And I thought Keely Ross really played well.
Yeah.
The last 3 months that we've seen him play on the field, I thought he's been really good. I thought he's really mature, and maybe he gets his opportunity this week with Jenny having a knee sprain as well, and we'll see if he plays well. But I think that was part of it too, is that he's had to make that move, and possibly is because the other guys in nickelback have been really good. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, we still want to use Jamel's skill set. Let's try him out here. Because there's going to be more of an opportunity, because we know the two safeties are kind of locked up. You're not seeing those young safeties getting playing time right now at all. So let's try him out there. Maybe there'll be an opportunity for him to push Jack Jones or Biggie or anybody out there. And, maybe it takes a little bit of time. Sometimes that happens.
I have a side tangent. Have you guys noticed that people keep slipping a lot at the Coliseum?
Yes.
So much.
Well, not just the Coliseum, at the Rose Bowl too, and the Penn State game. I know Rojo earlier this season, he slipped on a run and got hit pretty hard, and he came off. They're like, "Are you okay?" The trainers checked him. He's like, "My cleats aren't." He's like, "There needs to be something to fix with these." I don't know what the issue is and why it's so slick for some of the players. I mean, Jack Jones slips on the touchdown.
Yep.
Biggie slips on out of bounds.
Biggie slipped multiple times. I don't understand it.
Dan Weber's a shoe expert. He would always no, so we'll have to ask Dan, hey, what's going on with the cleats? He'll talk to the equipment people and be like, well, we're using 3/4 with this kind of a knob. He'll know exactly what's going on with the
Is it a
cleats.
shoe thing, or is it a Rams are also playing in the Coliseum thing?
They've totally tore up the field too, because I think the Rams are gone. The Rams are playing tonight actually, up in San Fran. But yeah, I saw a tweet, somebody they totally
Revamped
tearing up the field, yeah.
So hopefully, with some new sod, maybe that'll fix it a little bit. Maybe
It'll
that
be
is an
interesting
issue.
to see Cal if they slip as much. Because if it's a cleat thing, they'll slip at Cal. If it's a Coliseum thing, maybe they won't. I don't know.
That's good observation.
People are asking about the wide receivers. Who's going to step up this weekend, especially if Steven Mitchell is out?
If you read the participation chart, after Jalen Green's unfortunate drop pick 6, after that play, Tyler Vaughn's played 35 plays. Jalen Green played 15 plays. Those last 5, they were playing together because Steven Mitchell got hurt on his last catch right before the game-tying field goal. So between Mitchell getting hurt and the interception, pick 6, before the halftime, it was 30-10. And those two are the two that are playing that same position. So it was it was just a replacement in the game. We'll see if that continues this week. Tyler Vaughn has got first-team reps. Of course, Jalen Green is also. Michael Pittman has, because Steven Mitchell is not available right now. He's also nicked up. We'll see if he's available on Saturday. If not, I could see both Tyler Vaughn's and Jalen Green starting. I could also see Michael Pittman finally getting in. They are kind of protecting him a little bit this week, just because they've got so many guys banged up. They're like, we just want to make sure that he's kind of on a play count for this week in practice. So I think Pittman may be back this week. He's been clamoring. We talked about it yesterday. He's been clamoring for 3 weeks now.
Yeah, more than that to come back.
Tyler Vaughn's finally.
Yeah.
And I needed that catch in the end zone, that's what I got to talk to Matthew McConaughey about a little bit, about that he did.
About your love affair with Tyler Vaughn?
No, yeah, I didn't tell him, God, I really love that guy.
Speaking of millennials, you were on your phone next to Matthew McConaughey.
I was. I was probably tweeting,
You're sassy.
I'm standing next to Matthew McConaughey. He's not very happy. Life is weird. It was weird. It actually got some traction. It was kind of funny. I was like, yeah, didn't hear. I didn't do a selfie with him or anything. Okay, but so I've been talking about Tyler Vaughn's, where I thought he was going to have this breakout year and blah, blah, blah. 2 targets in the first game. He had dropped the first one, caught the second one, didn't get a target in the second game at all. And now, he had 4 catches in the game against Texas. Almost had that, game-winning touchdown catch would have, but I think they saw the effort. And a Deontay Burnett would have, maybe caught that ball and hit. I don't know who else would have caught that ball or come as close to as he did. That's just one of the things he's good at doing, is high pointing the ball. So I fully expect him to be starting this week. And be, regular in that rotation and getting, 4, 5, 6 catches a game. So I kind of think that's what's going forward. It's taken him a little while. He's a 5-star dude who ended up redshirting, and I think he's shown like, hey, I can go and make these catches. So we'll see. We'll see if I'm right, but I kind of feel like that's the way we're going now.
Joseph Lewis, another guy that's in the mix. However, he has a pectoral rib strain, so he got injured on the punt return that Bubba Bolden made the tackle on the 1-yard line. He kind of flipped over the pile and landed it kind of awkwardly. He had a screen pass and took it for 11 or 12 yards. I thought that's something they could have done a lot earlier with him. He's a big dude. He's hard to tackle. So make one of those smaller corners, make a tackle on the outside with a couple blockers. I think that's something they could do with him. I thought he's a guy that could potentially get targets as well. Some of the routes that they were running, they need somebody to create some separation. They were, because Texas was stacking the box, and because USC, the 2 4th down plays, the one Tyler Petit drops, the Stephen Mitchell catch, and they ran this play again at a later point. They ran some crossing routes where if you can get a step on a guy and then hit the receiver, then he's easily going to make the play, going to make the first down. Stephen Mitchell had some separation between he and the DB, and he tried to cut back on it. Maybe he shouldn't have on that one. It's kind of in the moment. It's kind of hard to tell, what you should do in that situation. But they ran it again later, and the receiver that was going across the middle, there was a guy on him just glued to him. So if you're running those routes, you have to be able to create, some separation. They tried it basically with a pick play when they were crossing with the tight end, and still the guys were right on them. They need somebody that's going to get open a little bit more than just, hey, if Sam throws a perfect pass, it'll hit our hands at least.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll catch it. Maybe we won't.
Maybe. Yeah, but Stevens really solidified himself as the second receiver.
Yeah.
So if for some reason they go with Jalen over Tyler, I think you're going to see the downside of not having Steven, because I think they definitely need to go with Tyler and see how that works versus trying to force Jalen into that second receiver role. We're getting a lot of questions about punt return, and should a Jane still be in that role?
I really liked Jane in that role early in camp. He's the most consistent. He catches the ball. I do not like the way that he has let balls hit the ground, fair catches, and that. And that's a big part of it, because you lose 10, 15 yards if a ball bounces. So I would like to see someone else back there, maybe get an opportunity. And maybe that's the case this week because of the knee injury to Jene. You don't necessarily have to have the most explosive player back there. But what I thought Jene would be really good at is making those decisions on that. And, it's always hard to tell until someone gets in the game and has, 6 220-pound muscled up dudes running at you, and you don't really get to look at them. You just got to concentrate on this floating object in the air. It's not an easy job at all.
No.
So I give a lot of credit to any punt returner, but I think that maybe they should give someone else an opportunity and see what they can do.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I'm just not been a big fan of special teams, and what we've seen over the last couple of years, good special teams plays are usually like good individual plays. Like if you want to talk about a kicker making a kick, like he made the kick, like that's the kicker doing it. He made 2 out of 3. Like that, your college kicker, that's kind of what you want. 66%, that's pretty good. He just happened to make the 2 big ones, at the end of the game. When Adoree Jackson would get a punt return, was that like some schematic thing that USC drew? No, it's just Adoree Jackson making a crazy play. When you're seeing the schematic stuff, that's where USC is really doing terribly. Where they're not blocking on returns, and they're catching a ball inside the 5. Like there's kind of stuff that needs to be taught. And as much time as they spend on special teams, and as much scholarships as they use on it, and they have a dedicated special teams coach, to me, it's not being you're just not using these resources wisely if this is the kind of result you're getting. So I don't think it's been good overall on special teams.
I don't think they were bad this last game, though. I know there's been some talk about the special teams continuing, and I think it's just continued talk from the earlier weeks, but really they didn't do anything bad this week.
They gave up a fake punt. They were
to a holding.
Well, okay. The hold was like, if the guy...
If he doesn't hold, he's there.
No, he didn't need... The hold wasn't going to do that. I didn't think so, watching it again. That was like wide open. Like there was,
It didn't count. If it doesn't count,
it didn't count. But you could see that kind of stuff is going on.
Texas's special teams are the ones you should be worried about. I mean, the guy fielding the ball on the 1 yard line twice. He gets tackled on the one.
He got tackled one, but then he had like a 30-yard return, from the one. Like I don't know how the USC let that happen.
25, I think.
Okay. I mean, it's not been good, Shotgun. Like it's
then the drama.
And Texas's kick coverage allows 2 big kickoff returns that set up the 2 touchdowns before both the halves.
I'm a big fan of Bayless at kick return.
Yeah, Bayless has done good back there.
That's an individual play, and it wasn't like. I mean, he got out to the 35, right? It wasn't like he didn't get out to the 50 or anything. Like that's
Hater.
Whatever.
I just didn't think they did bad in that game.
All right.
I would give them crap on other games, but I didn't think anything stood out.
They were average.
The fake punt thing was like, oh my god! Like I mean, no one was near.
What's interesting to me is that Chris Hawkins was put on the punt return unit, and he basically was just a safety in that same area. It seemed like everyone except for that play. I didn't go back and look at each punt return to see. But there were only like 2 times that maybe he went with a guy, ran with a guy to try to block him. It seemed like he was more of the safety valve on defense there, except for that one time. And maybe I don't know if they caught wind of something Texas did and said, oh, he's gonna bail out on this one, and then maybe we should run it. But on that particular one, he actually took off.
But see, you just said that. Like, did Texas see something and did they figure something out with the opponent? Like, people are doing that to USC. USC's not doing that to people. Like, you have a dedicated special teams coach. Are they like, in their punt return, like punt coverage, we're doing this? Like, you're not seeing USC take advantage of anything. So,
But you know what else Texas saw? That yellow hanky on the ground that negated that whole play.
Yes. But at least they're trying something. I mean, are they getting close to blocking a kick? Like, where the heck is that stuff?
Yeah, that's what's surprising me, because that's one of the things that John Baxter was really good at in his Fresno State days and his first run at USC is they blocked a lot of kicks. They blocked, the extra points, the Utah game that, they were saved by the block by, I can't remember, it wasn't Zach Benner off the top of my head, but.
He touched it, I thought.
Matt Khalil actually was the one.
Khalil, okay.
Different offensive lineman. I thought there were opportunities. There were opportunities in the punt returns to go after a punt block. I wanted to see them. They haven't really gone after a ball. And maybe it's just Baxter is now scared of the rugby style punting or something, because the game has kind of changed since the first time he was at USC. And maybe he doesn't want to go. I don't know. But I thought there were chances to go after somebody, go after the kicker and try to get one with the wide splits that Texas was running. But instead, that didn't really happen.
Cool. Hey, man, we're getting like
punt blocks are really fun. That's what you want to see.
Yes, they haven't done. They haven't come close.
They did have one last year with Michael Pittman. I just missed it photo-wise.
Nice.
Peter asks, I just lost this question because someone just commented. Malik Dorton got 0 penetration all game once he was in. Any chance they got to take a shot with Kenny Bigelow? A lot of people are asking about Kenny Bigelow as well.
Okay.
Or Peely. Malik seems to be in the wrong position for his body, playing inside, and is totally ineffective.
I thought Malik Dorton actually had a really good game when he came in the later half. And he almost got called for a penalty because he did get penetration. He dove at the quarterback, and he hit him just above the knee. And he almost got a penalty for diving below the knee. So can't say he got no penetration because he was also there. I thought he also had a couple tackles. I have to look at the stats, but I thought he actually played really well. I thought in the fourth quarter and the overtimes, they trusted him, and I thought that they really trusted Rector, because they didn't really trust Rector the third quarter. When Rasheem first went down, Rector was still playing his normal third down substitutions, but not really taking over that Rasheem Green role. They gave it to Dorton, and then Rector really came on, obviously, and had a huge game in overtime, in both the overtimes, and had a couple plays late in the fourth quarter too.
I like Kenny Bigelow a lot. I don't know if we've seen that kind of explosiveness from him, and we did see him a little bit in this game, right?
He was in for a few plays, and he just didn't make an impact on those plays. And granted, it's not, if you play 50 plays as a defensive lineman and you make an impact on 2 of them, everybody's hailing you as having a good game. So it's not necessarily that he did anything wrong or bad. He just didn't make an impact on those couple plays that he was in.
Johnny asks, does USC have an under the center package for Sam when they're at the goal line? Because it seems like running pistol from the goal line didn't work.
I hate that personally. They've run under center. Like at Western Michigan, they ran some under center. But then I think the last 2,
They did not.
They have not run under center the last 2 games except to spike the ball.
Okay.
Last drive.
When I was covering,
which I don't count.
So I was covering Fresno State, for a couple of years, and like Derek Carr, it was really kind of fun going up there. They had some good running backs and stuff. they would do the same thing. They were always in the spread. I mean, shotgun or pistol, and you're at like the 1 inch line, and you're standing 5 yards away. It's like, I don't know why you're taking the ball from 1 inch from where you want to be, moving it 5 yards back, and then having to go backwards. To me, those packages are like, just go under center. I would rather just be under center, but I don't know what you guys think.
The one concern with going under center when you don't ever do it, or the two concerns, is the snap itself. And because you've seen the times where a center thinks that the quarterback's farther back and tries to shoot it back, and there's a fumble, and also the handoff. Because you don't hand off the ball that way, you don't put the hand out and put it in the breadbasket. Instead, you're giving the read option look to your left or right. So it's a little bit different handoff there, and maybe that's a concern. But USC's went under center. They've done it.
Yes.
So it's not like they don't ever do it and maybe they should try it. They have it. And I will say on the goal line, the hole was there. The problem was the tight ends didn't block. And I think Eric Cromanhook actually pushed the defensive end into the hole where Ronald Jones was running.
Whoops.
Obviously wasn't trying to do that, but when they showed the spider cam look from behind center, you could see that the offensive line did a really nice job of crashing down on the defensive tackles, and there was a hole for Ronald Jones. It looked like he was going into it, and then all of a sudden the defensive end was there because he kind of cut the face of Tyler Petit and kind of got pushed into the hole there. And give credit to Texas for rallying to the ball there. Also, Ronald Jones could have got in on the third down, but he fumbled the ball. I don't think anybody noticed that. He actually fumbled the ball in the game, and he recovered it himself, but the difference in him fumbling versus being able to reach the ball out was the difference in him maybe getting that touchdown there. And that was, again, Deshaun Elliott, the cornerback or safety for Texas that had the 2 interceptions. He had a monster game.
Oh, he was great.
He was really good.
And Malik Jefferson, was that the other?
46.
Yeah.
The linebacker, the rover linebacker, was really good.
He was a 5-star, right?
Like he was one of the top guys in the country.
Yeah.
Wait,
stars matter, people.
what?
Like, stars matter.
What?
If you're playing bingo at home, Ryan said stars matter, so check that one off.
Malik Dorton did have 2 tackles and a half a tackle for loss, so if he didn't get any penetration, it'd be hard to get that tackle for loss.
I know you guys probably have because we're going to record a podcast after this. I know Shotgun's on a time limit, so we're like 8 minutes to the top of the hours. You want to go another 10, 15 minutes, or what's?
Shall we do rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do some rapid fire.
Robert asks, what is causing the amount of injuries, conditioning, lack of stretching, or over physical play by the opponents?
Unluckiness?
Injuries happen. I mean, these aren't they're not all that terrible. Texas lost their All-American left tackle for the season, so USC hasn't had that. Stuff like this, I think, happens. I don't think it's anything.
They've been fortunate in that regard, and we've talked about it before. You're usually going to have an offensive line injury. USC hasn't had that. I mean, Chuma has been nicked up, but hasn't been bad. Knock on wood. And USC, at this point, has not lost anyone for the year besides Michael Brown. So usually you're going to lose 2 to 3 guys. That's kind of normal these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Daniel Menta, that's a weird one. That's not like he was out with a knee. He's just like kind of out, and you're not really sure. But, yeah, that's been unfortunate.
Rapid fire. Paul says, do in-game coaching adjustments happen at USC? The shade.
They do. Do they happen to the extent that you would like? Maybe not. I think they made a couple adjustments on the offensive line, but I don't think it was enough. I don't think they adjusted the play calling enough. We've heard that a lot, where if a team comes in and does something that we haven't seen or they haven't seen, it can be a bit of an issue. It's not like it seems to baffle USC a little bit more when something happens that we didn't see on film.
That shouldn't be as much of an issue this week for Cal, because besides the fact that Cal has a new coaching staff and some of the USC players do know Justin Wilcox, but because they played North Carolina, because they played Ole Miss, not a lot of opportunities to kind of save stuff, I don't think.
Like he might have Wilcox got fired by, Clay Helton, just throw it out there, but he might have circled this game, but they couldn't ignore playing at 9 a.m. at North Carolina, in Chapel Hill and playing Ole Miss, so.
And Clay Helton's like, I still talk to Justin Wilcox. T. Martin, on the other hand, asked about it.
No. T. Martin was in a funny mood the other day. It was funny.
We'll put that video up later today as well.
Revenge game for Tuiasosopo as well. Don't forget about him.
Oh, yeah, Tuiasosopo's up there too.
Tight end coach. Okay, rapid fire. Jeremy Price asks, when is Angeline going to become a bigger factor at tight end? He didn't even play against Texas.
Baffling.
He should.
Baffling.
He should be playing. Would you rather throw... I think he has a much bigger catch radius than some of the other people that are playing that position. I like the catch radius thing. I would have used him more. I don't understand. They had Kromenhoek in to block. Is he a much better blocker than Angela? I don't know, but man, that's baffling to me. Baffling.
First game of the year, they played 4 tight ends. Daniel Mortabebe, Follow, Angeline, Petit. Second game of the year, played 3 because Mortabebe's out. Third game of the year, we played 2. But not either of the backups that had played before, not Angeline or Follow, they don't play offense at all. Kromenhoek all of a sudden is in the lineup.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird. I was looking for Baxter yesterday. I missed him, unfortunately, to ask him about this. But also, with USC's troubles over the middle field, Sam Darnold loves the middle of the field. Kerry Angeline seems to be a target that you would want to try to hit over the middle of the field. He can create some separation. And that's something they've done with Stephen Carr. If you notice the Stephen Carr routes that they've done, especially the one in the jump pass, they actually cleared out the entire middle of the field. The 2 inside receivers, I believe, ran kind of sit-down routes on the outside, or the 2 outside receivers did. The 2 inside receivers ran flag routes to kind of clear the middle completely. They got him one-on-one. He ran like a shallow angle route, and they let him go to work. That's how much confidence they have in Stephen Carr.
Yeah, Angeline used to be like kind of his own dude. He would come in like as a backup, and then they would have like the Follow Kromenhoek package, like they would do separately, like it was the freshman package or something. Yeah, baffling. No clue why that happened.
Daryl asks, I thought Jordan Iosefa looked really good. Thoughts?
Agree.
56. He played well.
Got good pressure.
John Houston's going to have to earn that spot back.
Yeah.
Which is what you like. You like to see a competition.
Steve asks, why do they keep throwing to the sideline again? That was Kiffin plays.
Because they were gaining 12 to 15 yards on it.
Yeah, it was working. So I think that was you talk about adjustments, that was one adjustment that was making. They were bringing everyone up near the line of scrimmage. They just would shoot it out, and they would have 3 receivers and 2 defenders. So when they did it, it worked pretty well. Except there was one play I think got blown up, like nobody blocked anybody. And
that was DeAndre Burnett's fault, actually.
Was it Burnett missed the block there? But yeah.
Also another slippage.
Yeah. Paul asks, are they ever going to announce the full list of red shirts?
You don't ever announce a list of red shirts because you never know if someone gets hurt.
Yeah.
You've seen Utah, I believe, last year with Tyler Huntley, the quarterback this year. He came in the bowl game in the second half, burned his red shirt, and threw. I think he scored 3 touchdowns in like 8 minutes or something.
Yeah.
To kind of lead them back. So you're like, you kind of weigh, is that worth burning the red shirt for the player? And if the player's good enough, then obviously it doesn't matter because they're not going to be there the whole time.
Yeah.
Another question we got earlier on Twitter was, are there any freshmen we should watch this weekend that have not played yet? Maybe Brandon Peely? I think he's the one guy that we're still waiting to see if he will redshirt or if he will be thrown into the mix.
Yep. Josh asks, are the Bears for real? Wins at North Carolina and against Ole Miss? ?
It's a better coach team. They, like Shotgun said, Sonny Dykes did not even care about defense. Justin Wilcox is a defensive-minded coach. But Tim DeRuyter, I think, is really running that defense. I think that it's a team effort there. Cal is one of the great rugby programs around. They've incorporated a lot of rugby tackling. They were a terrible tackling team. They're a much better tackling team now. They lost Trey Watson, which is unfortunate. They're running back, but they've got some guys that have filled in and doing well. The offense looked pretty good. They have an innovative mind. The coach from Eastern Washington came down, and he's running the show. So they have a really good staff. I think it's a real team. They're not as talented as USC. USC should win, but this is a real Cal team. It should be a little bit scarier than what you thought at the beginning.
I want to be a real team.
Yeah. They're,
Pete asks, any thoughts on the 2-back set, either with Rojo and Steven or Steven and Vi? I think he means set and Vi.
We saw it twice last game. They did a new wrinkle off of it by motioning out one of the backs, and I believe they picked up like 12 or 15 yards on it. So, again, I've said this, I think, on our podcast previously, that I like that set, and I think they have to build off of it, though. You have to throw the ball more, which is the first time they had thrown it when they motioned out, I believe, in this game. And then as you build more and more, then you can put in those sets and you use different backs if you want to. I think they like having Vi and Set in there just because it gives those guys a package. Dylan has talked about previously, like giving each back that has earned some reps a package so that they know and they are invested in that week's game plan. So I think that's the reason why you've seen those two guys together. We have seen one time Rojo and Set be put together and the play was terrible. Just happenstance. But
Peps asked, does USC need better play calling?
I mean, better. Like,
I think less stubborn at times.
yeah. I mean, I think you could do better of everything. Like,
Always
yes.
room for improvement.
Yeah, even Bill Belichick would say you could do better.
Yeah, you can always be better. But I do think in this game it was a little too stubborn. It's more of the just take what the defense is giving you, where I think sometimes they're trying to be balanced for the sake of balance, where in the first game the run was working against Western Michigan, and the receivers weren't doing a good job, and I think they were trying to throw the ball for the sake of throwing it, and it's just like you could just keep running the ball and you would bowl over these people. And Stanford, same thing. I mean, it was balanced, so you didn't really need to, but for Texas, you couldn't get the run going. You're running under 2 yards a clip. Open up the run by throwing the football more.
Yeah.
I would say.
Jeremy says, do you guys think that Big E's physicality is an issue? I know that he occasionally gets flagged, but I like that he's a physical corner.
Well, I like it.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I like the way he's playing. There's some problems. I think there could have been a few flags thrown on the defensive backs in the Texas game too. Maybe they got away with a couple, but.
And sometimes when you realize they don't call the flag on the first one, you go, okay.
Yeah,
see
do
how
a
the game's
little
going to
more.
be called
Yeah,
a little
I could
bit.
get a little handsy maybe.
Like a pitcher with the strike.
Yeah. With the strike zone, you start widening the zone.
That's pretty much it.
Sweet. What do we got? Oh, we're like right at 1 o'clock. That's pretty good.
Usually when we say that, the questions flood in, so we'll see. But
Oh, okay. So they're kind of, yeah, that's going on there.
should we do score predictions? Even though we're always really wrong about it?
I've been pretty good. I've always picked against USC in the spread, and I'm 2-1. Like they covered Stanford. That was the only one they covered. They did not cover.
way.
Yeah, you guys thought they were going to cover I think all of them, right? Or did no?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been way off every time.
Okay.
Yeah, I just know I've been
So
off.
the spread. So this one, I think it's like 16.5 or 17 or something. I think it's moved around a little bit, but you guys are gonna. What do you guys think score wise?
Score's always like a crapshoot. I never know. Every time we've said small, it's been large. Every time we've said large, it's been small. So he's like conjuring very, very hard.
Yeah.
31-17.
Oh, I was gonna say 35-17. Is that a football score?
Yes.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Nice.
You cover the spread. I do not.
I kind of think. I think this is going to be like a 35-21 sort of game, USC. So the USC wins by a couple touchdowns, but doesn't cover again. So we'll see.
There you have it.
I'm sure USC fans will be happy with the win and complain about everything in between.
Yeah, the whole
I don't
complaint.
understand that. Oh, sorry, go.
No. Yeah, the whole complaint about Texas. Like, I get that you see flaws. There's, you see them and you want to talk about them, but overall, it's still it's a blue blood program. Yes, they lost to Maryland, whatever. But I think when you beat you beat a Stanford, I don't care how good or bad. Like that's a team that's been beating you a lot. You want to do it. Texas beat you the last time they played. There's a bad taste in your mouth. Just winning those games should be enough. I could get like the Western Michigan stuff a little bit, even though they won 13 games last year. But the people complaining, it's kind of like, Clay Helton's not the right guy, and blah, blah, blah. Maybe he's not. He's won 12 games in a row. It's like it's really hard to complain against some really good teams. So kind of give them the benefit of the doubt if they don't look great from 1 week to the next,
But we'll see. First road game. Some young guys are going to be tested. And I think Kyle's going to test the defense with how many receivers are going to put out there. We're going to have to see how those DBs do.
That'll be interesting.
Sweet.
All
right.
TV comments.
Well, thanks you guys for tuning in to our little show here. So we'll try to do them every Thursday
live.
at noon. I'm back. Like I took a week off, but Shotgun and Keely did a great job last week doing a little dap over there. They're going to have their podcast coming up. I think we actually can put it up today. Since we don't have another podcast, so I'll give you a little extra, a little extra juice.
So Keely's going to edit fast then.
Fast editing from Keely. So that's Shotgun, Keely, and I'm Ryan. Thanks for tuning in to USCFootball.com live.